Next, we will discuss about the Pteridophytes. Pteridophytes are the primitive seedless vascular plants which possess conspicuous sporophyte plant body and inconspicuous independent gametophyte with sessile antheridia and partially embedded archegonia. Thus, they are vascular cryptogams. They occur in moist, shady places where over the soil, your roots, tree trunk, etc. They can be a fraction of centimeter as in case of azolla to 20 meter in the form of trees. The plant body is represented by sporophyte, which has true leaf, stem and roots. The leaf in Pteridophytes are of two types, the microphyll and the megaphyll. The microphyll will have no vascular gaps, whereas megaphylls have vascular gaps. The vascular bundles are present in the form of xylem and phloem. In xylem, though tracheids are present but the vessels are absent. And the phloem consists of sieve cells and the parenchymatous cells. The sporophylls are the sporangia bearing leaves. And in some cases, these sporangia occurs in groups called sori. Yet in some other cases, the sporangia may form cones or strobili. The gametophyte is the independent living stage which has thalloid structure called the prothallus, and it is usually green and autotrophic. The life cycle of Pteridophyte starts with prothallus, which represents the gametophyte stage. The prothallus bears archegonium and antheridium. The archegonium produces eggs and the antheridium produces antherozoid. These antherozoids remain coated with water, which helps them to travel to the archegonium. Within the archegonium, it fuses with the egg to form the zygote. The zygote grows into the sporophyte, which bear leaf, stem and root. This is the dominant phase of the Pteridophytes. The sporophyte produces spores in specialized structure known as spore mother cells. These spores can be homospores or heterospores. Homospores, the similar kind of spores. Heterospore, the dissimilar types of spores. These spores again germinate to form the prothallus. Now, the Pteridophytes exhibit a special characteristic known as seed habit, which is very important from the evolutionary point of view. As I said, the Pteridophyte produces homospores and heterospores. Those producing heterospores, they have two types. The heterospores produced by the Pteridophytes are of two types. Namely, mainly the microspores and the megaspores. The microspore produces the male gamete or male gametophyte, and the megaspore produces the female gametophyte. The female gametophyte is retained on the parent body or parent sporophyte for variable time period. And here the fusion of the microgamete and the megagamete takes place to form the zygote. The zygote forms the embryo, which develops here and remains for a variable time, and this is known as seed habit. This is shown by Salvinilia, Selaginella, Equisetum, etc. There are 4 classes of pteridophytes. Psilopsida, an example Psilotum. Lycopsida, example Selaginella. Sphenopsida, example Equistinum, and Pteropsida, example Diopterus. The next topic is Gymnosperms. Gymnosperms are the seeded plants in which the sporophylls are aggregated to form the cones, and the seeds develop in exposed state over the surface of the megasporophylls. They occur in colder part of the northern hemisphere. The plant body is represented by sporophyte, which is differentiated into stem, leaves, roots, etc. They are mostly perennial trees and shrubs. They show extensive taproot system and well-developed vascular system. But the xylems are without vessels. The ovules are naked and are uncovered seeds. The pollen grains are produced in microsporangia. The leaves show xerophytic adaptations, that is, needle-like leaves with thick cuticle and shrunken stomata. The dominant stage, they are the dominant plants of the Jurassic period. The spores are heterospores. The sporophyll aggregate to form the strobilus or cones. There are 2 types of cones, the male cone and the female cone. The male cone is called the pollen cone or microsporophyll. The female or ovulate cone is also known as megasporophyll. The microsporophyll bear microsporangia, which have microspores in them. The microspores develop into pollen grain, which represents the reduced gametophyte. And the megasporophyll bears the megasporangia, which bear megaspores. One megaspore develops into the female gametophyte, which can have 1 or 2 archegonium. The pollen grains, which has a generative and vegetative cell, fuses with the female gamete and forms what is known as seed. The seed gives rise to embryo. The embryo gives rise to the sporophyte. The sporophyte again bears sporangia, which develops into male cone or the female cone, and the life cycle goes on and on. The next are the angiosperms. Angiosperms are the flowering plants with seeds covered in or enclosed in fruits. The angiosperms can again be divided into two types on the basis of the number of cotyledons. The monocotyledonate and the dicotyledonate. The monocotyledonate have one cotyledon, and that dicotyledons have two cotyledons. Example of monocotyledon is maize, rice, wheat, and that of dicotyledons are all your pulses, mango, etc. Now, the monocotyledonate mainly have reticulate venation in their leaves and fibrous root system, and that the dicotyledons have reticulate venation in their leaves and taproot system. The details of angiosperma is not there in your syllabus this year. So we'll end our discussion here only, and that's all for this particular chapter.